shit's a relic and I give my life to defend it. My style samurai, burst the rise of powdered weapons. And I would write a poem in reflection, turns the blade into an intestine. The real shit's a Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. See. What I mean? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, let me get into it. I'm not trying to win, though I'm not trying to lose. These are only terms yours to describe and prove. One day you must choose to accept or disapprove. Until pay dues, the only one walking in your shoes is you. And what I've seen in our view is not all I've been to nothing. The same doors they I think will keep. Your values they I keep. And to expect these things is our fool's deed. And I perceive all the details is key to the inner peace. Peace beyond that skin deep. I seek stillness of the mind. The moment in a fight, the one fights on the inside. The fire burn bright, so warrior alone in the night. I seek stillness of the mind. The corner in a fight, the one fights on the inside. The fire burn bright, so warrior alone in the night. Yeah. When life served a joke, a curve a throat, I vanish and I shall not be smoked. I with the roast of my two favorite things, are grown from ground bean and ground up leaves. I close my eyes to see, and I eyesight deep. Thought string and dream weave in the way that I think is my soul greatest strength. And yet it's precisely what would make me weak. As a soul warrior, only opponent that I see is a reflection of me. And this lesson I think's important to receive and perceive, not to cast aside, only to remind when you're losing a fight and there's no one at your side. At that time we find inside what's right, the inner source of light. Let's make the fight, let's strike the fear from the night sky. I seek stillness of the mind. The comfort in a fight, the one fights on the inside. The fire burn bright, so warrior alone in the night. I seek stillness of the mind. The corner in a fight, the one fights on the inside. Fire burn bright, so warrior alone in the night. Hey, oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, it's my life. We all must fight.
忍び
It's my life. Oh yeah, yeah. With these I think I found the source of my struggles. To my surprise, it was none of my troubles that I faced daily. It was what I wasn't chasing. The felt that drove me crazy, not necessarily being lazy. Only comfortable, nervous, the things changing. Even though I feel like my life's a wasting, or worried if the decisions that I'm making, or even worth the time to make it, even worth it. Not unhappy in the moment, or what the future when brought the surface. I seem so blurry and uncertain. Oh, my wanderlust wonders what is what to dream and readjust. Giving get the goosebumps, the goosebumps, the goosebumps, the goosebumps. Oh, my wanderlust wonders what is what to dream and readjust. Giving get the goosebumps, the goosebumps, the goosebumps, goosebumps. Yeah. I'm looking just to intermingle, to touch and feel the tingle. I'm nimble with the lingo, so twinkle, twinkle, little star. This is just our window. Our buildings are too far, too great to reach across. They got to go downstairs and meet up in the hall to touch, connect, and talk. That's okay, cause that's exactly what I want. What I feel I need is another being in this moment to feel complete. I'm sorry, so I am sorry, so yeah. Always feel the rush when it touch on those we wish the lifetime. Give it got the goosebumps, the goosebumps, the goosebumps.
Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. every now and then, you know, everything gets backwards. But here we are. It's time for another update stream. As you can see, it's just me today. No Matt, nothing going on. We're just doing a quick little update. I got my notes. Nothing too crazy update-wise. There is some surprise twists that we discovered that I'll get into. So keep a little bit of intrigue there for you. Let me pull up my chat. All right. Kosu in American Sign Language. That would be insulting to everyone involved. This would be not a good look for me, for the business, for humanity. It would just be bad. But what's not bad is these updates I have for you. So we're going to start at the top. I don't have my slides set up right now. So forgive me, but that's just the way it is. Pit Lord. We have some delays. Pit Lord is delayed until late February, early March. The rules, we really just needed some development time to nail those down. Pit Lord uses a card deck for actions and movement, and it is the rules and the card deck intricately tied together. To really make sure that that experience goes smoothly, we just found that we needed a bit more time to work out some of the kinks. Unfortunately, that does mean that the numbers that we're printing for Pit Lord are overseas in China, and it brings us into Chinese New Year, which is like a 10+ day holiday where things shut down, they get backed up, and then they scramble to get back into the groove. So with that delay, we then have like this artificial 3 weeks delay from our production for that. It is just going to be what it is. We wanted to make sure that the rules were nice and tight, worked together correctly, and when it comes down to that sort of production scale, sometimes we just have to work with the factories. We were trying to get it done beforehand, but we didn't, and we're not going to rush the product out the door. So Pit Lord, late February, early March. That said, the components that we can order, like the tokens and the cards, will be ordered soon. The rules will be the last thing, and then the production in-house will come along naturally. We are in a really good spot as far as our resin production goes. In fact, we're running stock for most things. So once the Pit Lord hits that queue, it should go pretty fast. So that's Pit Lord. Late February, early March delivery. Next up on the list, Mobile Arms. Mobile Arms, got a couple of things here. One, we're doing final checks of fitment for these pieces, making sure that all of these movable guns and arms work between all mechs. Between bin sculpting and Corey sculpting, there's always a chance that sort of scale or something could go wrong. So we're just doing our darndest to triple check that that's not the case. So they're just shaking around there. We've also started mastering, making sure that things like pilots, which you can't see, I don't have the close-up camera right now, my bad. Things like pilots being printed as well. Those masters should all be good. As far as the rest of the components, the rules were ordered and received, tokens ordered, received, dice ordered, received, cards ordered, received. That really just brings us down to the things we produce in-house of mechs and terrain, minus the box that it all goes in. Those boxes have been ordered. but they have not been received. So we're very close to having just the rules box entirely in-house, ready to ship. And then the miniatures would go on after that. That's all produced in-house. One caveat there, and let me go grab a bucket.
Shinobi.
One caveat is that we received these rule books and they were looking real good. And I opened one up and I said, oh shoot, this is nice. I'm flipping through. I'm liking it. And I notice, let's see here. Corey doesn't know this, by the way. Blindsiding you with that. It's some bad news. I'll just lay it out there. Can't open that one because it's refusing to open for me. I opened the book, and this is the staple page. I said, ah, cool book. And I flipped, and I said, that's a weird piece of art. And then I flipped the next page, and I said, that's a weirder piece of art. And then I flipped the next page and said, this is an error. We don't know what happens. We've already reached out to the printer, and it's a little hard to see, but there is like a chromatic aberration. There is pinks up here and blues, and then there's some weird blue smudges right there, one down there. All this said, that was the first one I opened up. And at first I thought it was just one mark because the book I opened up had it on page 15 right in the middle and nowhere else. And you can still read the text behind it. And I thought, that's a big bummer. We reached out to the printing company. The printing company said, can you choose like 20 at random, like pick up the packs we sent, choose them at random, show us that it's in the large batch. Which we started doing, and then we noticed that it wasn't just on the middle page, but it was on previous pages, and then started looking at some other printing errors, like there were some black portions that weren't entirely saturated with ink. So we opened up 200 of the booklets, just what I have right here. Of that 200, we had 35 that were good. We had 165 right there with printing errors. They vary, but they all are related somehow to that little cigarette burn smudge. It's very obviously a printing issue, and it results in what we can assume is a failure rate of about 83% of the batch. So it is pretty substantial, and it is varied, and the marks that go across multiple pages, it's bad. This is really the first time we've ever had just like a straight up error. Like it wasn't in the file, it wasn't anything we sent. This is a printer's error that has occurred. And it looks like some roller that was applying the ink got messed up. We don't know. So we'll see how this process goes. Now, the caveat there is that 17%, or at least of the random sample, that is good, can start potentially fulfilling orders once we get the boxes in. And based on what a reprint time frame and all that sort of thing is going to look like, we'll keep you updated. We don't know. We've sent off the video, and we'll see what the response is. So yeah, it does sound like any actual QC, especially because many of them, it's like the middle of the book. It's like where the book naturally opens and you see it, and it's over text. It's very strange. Yeah, now we have had, with like the the Hametsu books that had that binding issue, we have had minor issues crop up here or there, and the company's always been really great to work with and pretty responsive. So we're not doom and gloom about it. We're a little disappointed. But it's not like it was the last thing that we were wanting, and we're not completely out of material. It just means we have to sort through the books and flip through it. which Doug and I did that 220 minutes this morning. So we'll make it work in one way or another. But when it comes to mobile arms, rules, caveat have been received, at least in some minor capacity that we could start fulfillment. Tokens, dice, and cards have been received, and those all look good. Mechs, making sure masters of all those with the fitment is good to go. Terrain, the smaller consolidation of kits, those are in the pre-pro phase. And the boxes are ordered and on the way. Sorry, I was making sure that message wasn't for me. Terrain with that in the pre-pro phase. Black Friday, we jump into that. Significant amount of orders, very heavily MDF terrain focused. So what that means is we're processing them as they came in. We look at our order queue. Doug looks at orders that have missing elements. We make orders that goes into a production queue, and we have hundreds of make orders queued up right now, the large majority of which is terrain. We're making them as efficiently as we can. You know, if there's only one or two of those that we need, we may only run 3 of those products. So just get them and fulfill the orders as quick as we can. So if you're waiting on a Black Friday order, that's most likely the reason that it's being held up. We did start fulfilling the Deep Roots and Turkey Primes today. If your orders are waiting on those, and we're still in production of those things. Hoping to wrap up that production beginning of next week, so all of those orders should go out. And the reason that the mobile arms terrain is still in pre-pro is because we aren't shoving it ahead of the Black Friday orders, at least not yet. Once we get all the other elements in, we may do a quick run of those kits, take a day and a half to get through them all, but that's where they're at. Minis our cast resin is up to date though. In fact, we're starting to run stock for that, which is a really nice feeling. We have these green slips that stock goes into, and it's nice to see green slips out there. So way to go, James, and also way to go, Travis, for the mountain of MDF that is looming over you that you're having to cut. Terrain and miniatures, and then the turkeys and the Deep Roots are being 3D printed, which is what that production is going there. If your Black Friday order, like Chompy Bits, had 10 back-ordered MDFs, it may be a while. But if your back order, depending on where it was, those 10 may have been pushed into the queue already. As well as if somebody ordered, on Friday, a back-ordered MDF kit, and you ordered on a Tuesday a back-ordered MDF kit, that run may fulfill both theirs and your orders. So we really do try to be as efficient and as time-oriented. Like if you place your order first, that's what gets prioritized. But we also are going to, if we're running a kit, going to run enough of the kit to fulfill all the subsequent orders and have stock after the fact. So yes, the total outstanding count. So it's a little bit of, there may be some wackiness. If you placed one order and then a few days later you place a second order, that second order may get fulfilled first if there was someone else's order that ended up having those items fulfilled. But we really do start at the top of the list and efficiently work our way down as best we can. So that takes care of Black Friday. Gonna recap. Pit Lord, rules needed some tweaking. It's probably going to run into the Lunar New Year in China, which means that factory shutdown for at least 2 weeks, if not more, which means late February, early March for Pit Lord. Mobile arms. Rules, tokens, dice, and cards have been received. Boxes are ordered. Once the boxes come in, we will be able to pack up at least a portion of those initial orders. Mechs are being mastered and fitment is being tested, making sure that all that's good between the sculptors that worked on them. And terrain is in the pre-production phase, ready to be shoved into the cycle whenever we need it to be. Brings us up to current projects right there. Breacher. You tuned in yesterday, you saw Cobrian punch a guy to death with one punch in the face. It was incredible. Loved it. Matt worked with me and helped me make my own Breacher yesterday. It is another in a series of Breacher streams that we've been doing that are both on Twitch VOD and YouTube VODs. You should check out our stream channel. I think it's on our main channel, actually. And it's good fun. We're looking to do more of those down the line. It's going well. I mentioned yesterday in the Breacher stream, this is kind of a foil to the like huge Don't Look Back Lollapalooza that we did last year, where we had a ton of items and a ton of add-ons, and to be completely frank, it was a production nightmare. It's the sort of thing that would sink a company if they didn't have other revenue. I honestly would say that. If we were a company and that was all of our income, I think we would have burned through all of that cash. We kind of underestimated the labor and things that went into it. That said, we enjoyed it. It was fun. I loved the project, but it's not sustainable to do that 6-7 times a year. So Breacher is a bit of a new model that we'll be going into this year. I'm sure this has been discussed before, but it's a little bit more consolidated of a product range. We're really focusing on the book as the core thing that we want to sell and get in people's hands, and we want to shorten that delivery window. So that said, the solo rules content is really the last portion of content that will go into the rulebook. The last portion that needs to be edited and all of that jazz. Once it does, that rulebook be ready to go off to the printer. There is a few more unlocks. Keep your peepers peeped for that. And next week, whenever Ben taking a short little vacation, whenever he gets back in town, he's going to update some things. Things like vehicle rules, digital tokens. None of that is going to be impacting the actual book itself. It'll all be either PDFs online or separate materials. We're really striving to have this be a quick turnaround. That is a major goal of this sort of format. So that's why we don't have things like 16 VHS add-ons for this product. Doesn't mean that, in a year, 2, 3 years, we don't have a Breacher Lollapalooza where it goes insane. But for now, that's kind of where we're focusing. That's our new mentality going into it. Swab, yes, Doug answered right there. Can we add an order? Yeah, it's kind of a case-by-case basis. A lot of the times we'll say no, especially if you're international. It's a big headache if it's going across borders for customs and things like that. But you can always reach out and kind of see how it is. If it's other items that are back-ordered, it's a no, because then that compounds on the issues of who got in what orders first and when and all sorts of things. So case-by-case, like Doug said. Yeah, Mobile Arms Pit Lord, Black Friday, Breacher, but it's going well. Really enjoy Breacher. I've been enjoying playing it with Matt on stream, and the campaign's going really nicely. So if you have checked it out, which I'm assuming you have if you're here, thank you for doing so. If you haven't checked it out and you're at least moderately interested in it, it's really fun. It is John Wick, Rambo, Die Hard. It is your favorite action movie modern game. This table in front of me right now was my Breacher being sent to kill a hired gun with his crew that was hiding out in what I assume is rural Washington state, kind of what gives me the vibes. So it's definitely not a modern sim. It's much more movie action oriented, and it's pretty fun. You can do a lot of stuff, a lot of cool ways to outfit your hero. In the next stream coming up next week, I'll be playing in the Op4 side, get a little taste of that. It is like a unbalanced game in that you have one side versus many characters on the other. Bit of asymmetry to the battle, and it'll be a bit of a different experience, but I'm looking forward to it. That said, yes, we'll get to Pizza Nut and those things. Doug is giving some details there. We have cut the replacement. There's a really big bin of them all over there. Sometimes that happens. We work entirely online servers, and it is surprisingly easy for files to get overwritten. And for the most part, they never do. Once they get done, they get put in a special folder in a special place, and that's good. But this one obviously slipped through somehow. But we'll make it right, and we've already cut the replacements to do so. That also brings us to Case 01 Asylum and Warehouse. Doug is labeling the Asylum instructions as we speak. He finished off those renders, exported them out, and is labeling them right now. Case, Pizza, and Warehouse are on my agenda next. Case is done, just needs to be exported out and rendered, and the Pizza and Warehouse should go pretty quick. Those are still on our to-do list. Unfortunately, when it comes down to daily production and instructions, production does take priority a lot of the time. But we are working on them, and we're chewing through them together. Should be up for the weekend, yes. So Asylum should be wrapping up today, tomorrow, and if you're looking for a project, the MDF Asylum could be your little weekend fun. Will there be any Breacher previews demos at Adepticon? That is a Matt question. There won't be anything official, but as in like during the day at the booth. But that's not to say that we won't be running demos post hours, or if it's a slower afternoon, you could squeeze in a little demo. We're planning on having all of those assets available for Matt to run those demos, but I'm not sure we're going to have the actual game components in by that point. It's doubtful that we would, outside of maybe some sample copies of things. If we do, then yeah, we'd love to run you through it. If you know Matt, if you've met him at Adepticon, you know he loves nothing more than to run people through games. He's really good and fun at it, so I'd definitely hit him up, see if he's into it. Let's see. Speaking of Adepticon, a few things there. Hamamatsu raid. Doug, I think that's filled up. Is there a few spots left? If not, thanks for signing up for that. The big multi-person Hamamatsu raid is going on at Adepticon this year. This specific event, there is a few spots left. You just said, if you want to get into it, you should. And if you want to get a little taste of that Hamamatsu raid, Doug will actually be down in Austin at Wonko's game store, 11 a.m. this Saturday, 24 hours from now, 48 hours from now, running through some playtesting of that raid with some folks. So if you're in the Austin area and want to get a little sneak preview from the man who wrote it himself, Wonko's at 11 is where you should be. That raid is there, and yes, Chompy, there are some new things being planned. Don't Look Back is getting a specific VHS expansion to be released. Keep your eyes out for more details on that. I don't want to ruin anything. I don't know what Matt and Ben want to keep secret or want to tease, but there is a Don't Look Back VHS expansion that will drop Adepticon weekend. We are also looking at dropping the Commonwealth faction for Lunar. So the Commonwealth is going to be a bit interesting, but the Commonwealth faction, there may be a few products associated with it for Lunar that are dropping. And there's going to be a few more things as well. Those are just things that I'm comfortable saying right now. Yeah, like Doug said, potentially a new school. You have Sega X-Pac at Adepticon as well. Really just matters whenever we get back. Ben's current workload, wrapping up these projects and seeing what we can get across the line. We're aiming to at least have a small selection at Adepticon, even if that means that those products officially go live a few months later in larger quantities. We'll keep you updated and tease those images as they come along. Let's see, what is that? And speaking of Ben's workload, Night Thirst is coming up. So Night Thirst is by Little Goblin. She actually dropped a video, a little Q&A on her YouTube channel. You should go and check out if you're interested in that game at all. It is all the vampire fun you could imagine. It's really nice to have these varied games across the board. To go from John Wick to free-for-all purge of vampires. It's great. So you should check that out. We've been dropping some teasers and things like that. That is coming in February. So we'll wrap up the Breacher side of things, get that into actual production, and then start that Night Thirst campaign. And it'll be very similar in scope to our Breacher campaign. Again, we are looking for sustainable, quick turnaround, give you some nice books, some good rule sets in your hand so that you can actually get going on these sorts of things. Night Thirst, Decepticon, Famitsu, VHS, Commonwealth. That about wraps it up. Yeah, as Corey said, it does depend on the production queue. It also depends on kind of the scope of these things. Be able to 3D print things, being able to spin cast things, being able, it gives us a lot of flexibility with how we want to release product. But at the same time, we want to make sure to release product in a way that is good for the product. We don't want to say, oh, well, let's skimp this thing down just to get it over the line. We're going to release good, solid things. So we'll keep you updated as we get a little bit farther in that process. We are dealing with our inventory and setting aside convention stock and all that stuff right now. Decepticon is definitely on our minds as far as the production side of things goes. That's some of the inventory that we're currently running. We're going to start pulling and consolidating for stock. Trying to get a bit more ahead of the game than we usually are. Usually we pack up everything during the last week and then drive it up there in a truck. And we're trying to be a bit more prepared this time around. So that about wraps it up. I'm not sure if there's anything major that I'm forgetting other than that. From the top, quick notes. And if you have any questions that I haven't addressed, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll get to them once I'm done. Pit Lord, rules and the card deck, which are pretty intertwined. We wanted to really get over the line in a solid fashion. Took a little bit longer than we anticipated to do so. And it does mean that we'll end up running into the Lunar New Year for those productions, which is like a 2 to 4 week window of it just doesn't get done. That means that Pit Lord is looking for a late February, early March release date. Mobile Arms. Everything's been ordered that needs to be ordered. We're waiting on the boxes to show up. The rules had a bit of a printing error from the manufacturer, but it seems as if there is a portion of that batch that is usable. So Mobile Arms is right on the cusp of delivery. Once we get those boxes in and the mechs and terrain production gets going, we should be able to start delivering that pretty soon. I'm not sure exactly when that box window is, but it is within weeks for sure. We may get some out early January, most likely, or late January, most likely. A large bulk will go out in February though. Black Friday, we're still playing catch up on those. MDF is the real bottleneck right now. Tons of MDF orders. They're hitting the queue in the order in which they were ordered. We're trying to get through it as efficiently as we can. So if you're still waiting on one of those, that's probably why. The other options that might be holding up a Black Friday order are the Turkey Primes, which we filled about a third of so far, and the Deep Roots, which while not Black Friday, are wrapped up in that Black Friday order. So really those came post. But both of those are in production and should be wrapping up early next week, Monday, Tuesday, and then it will just be MDF Black Friday that's there. Breacher's going great. If you haven't checked it out, you should. VODs on our YouTube. And if you're tuning into the stream, you may want to tune in next week for the Breacher streams. I'll be playing the Op4 this time. There is still some more unlocks down the line once Ben gets back in town this weekend. We want to be updating those pages. None of those unlocks should substantially impact the production or delivery time of the book, though. We're really aiming to get that over the line quickly. Asylum instructions are being wrapped up right now and in tomorrow morning. Should be available this weekend. Queso 1, Pizza Mutt, and Warehouses are shortly behind. The Pizza Mutt, there was an error in that initial batch. We have printed replacement parts and are in process of getting those out to people. Trying to jump ahead of the game a little bit there. So that is a known issue. Sometimes those things happen. The file got reverted back to an older one before the actual production run was made. And we'll do our best to make it right for you. Sorry for the inconvenience. Lunar ESA as well is a product that we're currently revamping and getting the cards off to the printers. So if you have some orders that are waiting on the Lunar ESA, that is a thing that we're working on. As soon as those cards get in, we'll get them to you. Night Thirst is coming up in February. Once we wrap up the Breacher campaign, we'll go into Night Thirst. It's pretty cool. Whittle Goblin did a Q&A on her YouTube. You should go check it out if you haven't already. similar in style to what Breacher looks like. If you're curious at least what the product offerings are going to be, that's kind of what we're leaning towards this year. Adepticon comes up in March. Hametsu Raid, few spots. It is a official sanctioned Adepticon event. You should get in there. If you want to play test it, they'll go be at Wonko's in Austin at 11 a.m. on Saturday. You can reach out on Discord for more details on that. VHS expansion for DLB is going to be dropped. Commonwealth faction for Lunar most likely going to be dropped. We have some things for Yafsiga. We have some things for Hametsu. It all just depends on our workload to how much we can actually produce before that Adepticon date hits. So we are trying to supplement these, all our game systems, not just the ones that we're running campaigns for right now. Keep an eye out for those sorts of teasers. And that wraps it up. I also accidentally wrote too big of a book. He did. Yes, there was an original budgeted size of book, and the rules were a little bit bigger than that budgeted size of the book. So that is something that that is part of game writing, and that's part of it is good in that. There you go. Yeah. So that's just it's part of what happens when you're writing something that you want to be good. Things show up unexpected, like that. Yes, Pizza Mutt getting them out to domestic people. International Pizza Mutt, let us know and we'll send out your part. But our domestic Pizza Mutts, be sending those out to correct what was a manufacturing error. We're sorry. It's the best we can do. It's apologize and make it right. I don't see any other questions came in. Last chance. If not, is there anyone I should raid? Anyone live right now? Thanks for hanging out on this Thursday afternoon for this update stream. We try to do these pretty regularly. Malev asked me a question in Facebook Messenger. I don't think that's relevant to the stream. We'll raid some Jamie. Thanks. Try to do these every Thursday. Keep your eyes peeled for some more Breacher streams coming up next week. And if I don't see you there, then I'll see you at the next Thursday update. Hopefully I'll have some resolution on these rule booklets that were weirdly misprinted in a batch of 83% failure rate, which is very high, very high. So that's questionable. Have a good day, guys. Let's go raid Jamie and see what she's up to.